In the past few days, have you thought or said any of the following phrases? I am so tired. I am never going to get everything done. Will this day ever end? Well, you might be feeling burnout, which could lead to heightened feelings of exhaustion, cynicism, and failure. So stick around if you want to learn some quick tips about how you can bounce back from burnout. Hi, I'm Jason Broussard, a design principal with Education Elements. We work with districts across the country and support them with reimagining how they support teachers and leaders in innovative and responsive ways. Today, I'm talking to Angela Wagner, yoga teacher, trainer, life and leadership coach, and founder of Yoga Sport on Demand, about how negative thinking patterns can distract us and leave us feeling more burnt out than ever. And at the end of this video, I'll teach you a process to help you and your team identify trigger phrases that keep you swirling in unhealthy and distracting conversations, and introduce a method that can help you shift your focus and keep your team centered on the task at hand. I first met Angela in 2012. My goal that year was to run 12 half marathons in 12 months. Unfortunately, with 7 races down and 5 more to go, I fractured my heel, preventing me from reaching that goal, but more importantly, from doing something that I loved. Coming home after a long day, lacing up, leaving all of my stress and anxieties of the moment, and going on a long run. After months of healing and not running, I needed something to distract myself. So I decided to sign up for a beginner series at the yoga studio around the corner. What made yoga so different than running was how it challenged me to stay present on my mat and notice the thoughts that weren't serving me. By noticing them, breathing in, and letting them go. All these years later, that same practice of noticing our thoughts and shifting our perspective is more important than ever, especially when our first instinct is to run. So in your experience, how have you seen burnout show up, whether it's individuals on their yoga mats or just out in the real world?
So first, one thing I love to do, I do this in every training and program that I do, is I look up definitions. So this was actually by Psychology Today, is that burnout is a state of chronic stress that leads to physical and emotional exhaustion, cynicism and detachment, and feelings of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. But going back to your question about how does it show up? I always, for everything I do, go back to the foundations of health, sleeping, moving, and eating. So if you're like, well, I haven't been sleeping well, or I've been on my phone scrolling social media and feeling bad about myself till midnight, or I suddenly am not practicing and I used to practice all the time, or I used to go for walks. Those are symptoms of something bigger going on mentally.
When you think about it in those buckets, to me, it feels a little bit more approachable, because right now I just feel like I'm spending a lot of time making a long list of things that I am not doing. How do you feel like the foundations of health and where there are gaps impacts the way we talk to ourselves, the thoughts that we have, and really like our mental strength in bouncing back and dealing with burnout?
Generally speaking, I find that I'm in overwhelm before I'm in burnout. Like burnout's like hardcore. I'm ready to quit. But like overwhelm is like everything feels really hard and chaotic and busy. And so for me, what I noticed is when I hear myself say I'm tired and I'm busy, huge red flags go off now. Whereas before I would say those all the time and it was just like a thing. And so if you can find your trigger statements, that's the thing that's telling me, it's my warning sign to say you're in overwhelm, you're going to a bad place. And then let's talk about why that's happening. Why am I saying those things?
So what's your approach to really shifting and helping folks shift away from being super critical and trying to get out of that state of burnout?
One thing that's really helped me and a lot of my students and clients is to notice what your patterned thinking is. And, an example might be all or nothing thinking, which is good or bad, right? So this is bad. I'm doing these bad things. I'm eating this bad thing. I'm a bad person, right? Because that just like digs us into a deeper hole. Stepping back from it and saying, there's nothing wrong with me. Notice the judgment, what you're telling yourself, what you're thinking, and what you're expecting of yourself. This is where that deeper work really can shift the way that we live and the way we think and the way we feel. One of the things that we also do in my teacher training that's so impactful, and I really recommend teams do this, it's called a complaint-free world. And it's not just like, oh, let's just all be positive and be fake, but he teaches you how to have real conversations to solve problems versus just complaining about them. And so if you're not actually going to bring something up in order to help make it better, then you just don't say it. And it's the same thing with the trigger word, is you start to notice. And I actually have my students journal their top 5, like Billboard top 5 complaints. But like, then you can ask yourself, okay, why am I thinking that thought? And, an example might be, a lot of people have obviously negative feelings around gaining weight or their body image. And so you could say, okay, well, why am I upset that I look this way? Well, I'm upset because I can't fit into my pants. Okay, well, why am I upset that I can't fit into my pants? Well, because I don't feel good in those pants and they're tight. And what's interesting is that so often with something like that, it gets to something so incredibly deep, like I want to be alive to like see grandkids or whatever. Like it's something so much bigger than I just feel bad in this weight. And so shifting it from a place of dread or have to or beating yourself down to what does it look like now and how can I rebuild in a way that feels sustainable?
What are the words that we can commit to saying to kind of signal, like, I'm noticing this is happening in our team?
Yeah, no, we did that at the studio it wasn't for the same reason, but we had a secret word, a secret code word, avocado. I don't know why it was avocado. It was when we were congregating and talking about our personal lives and we weren't focusing on our clients coming through the door, students. Wow. So we would just like walk by and be like, I want some guacamole, avocado, and it was just like super random, but it would shift us and then everyone would disperse.
Something that struck me as Angela and I were talking was the role our pattern thoughts and words play and where we spend our time and energy as individuals and how that impacts the teams we are a part of. So it got me thinking, how might we quickly shift focus when we notice conversations falling into one of these categories of thought? One method is to identify trigger phrases that derail productivity and use code words to refocus the conversation. Here are 4 easy steps to do this with your team. Step 1, spend 5 minutes brainstorming topics and phrases that distract from the main issue at hand. Step 2, group similar responses together and name them to easily identify common themes. Step 3, create a code word and team response. This might mean when the word is said, everyone on the team stands up and does a spin, or maybe it's a call and response. Whatever the team decides, I encourage you to make it fun and physical. Step 4, encourage anyone on the team to say the code word anytime your team is triggered by the phrases you brainstormed in step 1. I know this might feel silly, but it's an easy way to quickly refocus your team and help make the most of everyone's time. So if you ever hear me yelling out the word Yahtzee, don't worry. It's just me noticing my thoughts, recentering my focus, and one way I'm bouncing back from burnout. Thanks so much for watching, and while you're here, be sure to check out our last episode where we talk with Dr. Michael Leach, an expert in counseling and psychology, about recognizing and recovering from burnout through writing a love letter to your job. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss the next episode of Bouncing Back from Burnout, where I talk to my mentor, Dr. Lisa DeVoe. Looking for more tips on teacher recruitment, training, support, and retention? The Education Elements YouTube channel, Twitter, and website have tons of free resources. Check out the description for links and more videos. And as Angela says at the end of every one of her classes, the light in me honors the light in you. We'll see you next time.